We promised you some Samsung content, and we have the latest and greatest, most expensive flagship phone from Samsung.
Yeah, those are good descriptions, I
Yeah,
would say.
yeah. This is the Galaxy S25 Ultra. Looks and feels very similar to the S24 Ultra and has the same $1,299 price tag as last year's S24 Ultra.
And also made by the same company that made the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra.
That is also a thing. Let's get into it.
Now, this phone looks great. If you remember what the S24 Ultra looked like, we're looking at a couple of differences where mainly now you have these flat but rounded corners on the phone, which in my opinion look a lot better than last year's. You have a flat, very flat front and back. And even though some people might not be a fan of the boxier look on smartphones, I'm a big fan and I think it's great because it looks modern, it looks more professional, it looks more premium, and they pulled it off with this phone. I think the design definitely gets an A plus just because it looks so much better. Even though last year's design was okay and good for some people, they did step it up this year just because it looks so much better and it feels so much better. And one big thing to note is when it comes to the back, the cameras, they definitely look more prominent. When you look at the camera rings, they look thicker, which is probably one thing that I wish last year's design didn't have, is the cameras were really ugly.
Cameras were ugly,
Yeah,
says.
I mean, there's no other way to say it. But now they look a lot better just because it feels like there's a lot more components happening on the back instead of just having a lens that's naked and just out there.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, the design refresh on the 25 Ultra compared to 24, it looks really nice. I do agree. It is a large phone. Like we'll get into the display here soon, but it's 6.9 inches, but it feels comfortable in the hand, especially with the type of design language they have going on here. There are some parts of it where it feels a little sharp whenever you hold it, but honestly, it's okay. It looks really good. And if you happen to watch another prominent YouTuber who's very, very good at dismantling phones, like down to the last screw,
Yep.
the camera rings apparently pop off. So it seems to be more of a cosmetic thing than anything. I mean, of course it is cosmetic. But
Right.
what I'm saying is that the ease of them coming off is not something that I was expecting.
I think that just speaks on the manufacturing of the camera lenses themselves because the camera lens it's there, but it's like you have a those protected covers for
Yeah.
cameras that they sell on Amazon for
Yeah.
like $5. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
So it looks great, but you're right. The manufacturing could be a lot better.
But I will say, I feel like you have to go out of your way to remove those camera rings, right? Like, obviously, you have to get something like thin enough underneath and then actually apply pressure to pop them off. I've been
Right.
using this phone for like
Right.
several weeks now. Absolutely no issues in normal day-to-day use. So unless you're not intentionally trying to take them off, you're going to be just fine.
Don't
But
worry about it.
worth noting. But overall, design language refresh,
I like it.
dope. This is a slick looking phone. Now, like I just mentioned, the display comes in at 6.9 inches.
Nice.
Nice. Compared to last year's 6.8,
Not nice.
right? So not nice. But the way that they achieved it was not necessarily making the phone too much bigger in any sense, right? It was more so
Yeah.
we're going to shrink down the bezels in order to increase screen size.
And I love it.
Yeah, so like
Yeah.
screen to body ratio compared to the S24 Ultra went up on the 25 Ultra, and it led to this like ultra uniform looking
Dude,
bezels all around. It looks so nice.
I wish that so many more phones had the same look when it comes to the front facing display, just
Yeah.
because the bezels are so even
Yeah.
that you forget that there's an edge.
Yeah.
Like it's the whole thing.
No, it
And
looks great.
It looks great.
It looks great. We've been saying it for the longest time. Samsung makes S tier caliber
Yeah.
displays, right? Best of the best until the OnePlus 13 came out
And they did.
with the new LTPO 4.1 technology.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, that's not here on the 25 Ultra. It is still just the dynamic LTPO AMOLED.
Right.
HDR10 plus, 2K, like all the great stuff, 2600 nits peak max brightness. But I don't know if it's like the best.
No, and I
anymore.
think it's one of those things that which is crazy because this is such a premium phone where they could have taken the opportunity for them to implement that new technology like OnePlus did on their
13.
base flagship, and they didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't.
Yeah. But outside of no LTPO 4.1 and the additional like brightness and like additional colors and stuff like that the display is capable of, right? The newer technology that comes with something like that. This is still a flagship caliber display.
Right.
It is incredible. You're going to have no issues with it inside, outside, in bright lights. None of that. But I was kind of hoping that Samsung would kind of throw everything at the phone.
Yeah, and it's like if we didn't have another phone to compare it to, and we didn't know what other phone manufacturers were capable of, I think this would have been top of the line, nothing beats it.
Yeah, for sure.
But because we know that there's other manufacturers that are doing great jobs with their displays, we're disappointed in Samsung just because we know that they could have done better. And even though it's amazing, there's room for growth for sure.
Yeah, and honestly, I thought seeing OnePlus bring out that type of display, right, on the 13, OnePlus typically drops their phones really early in the year.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I was like, okay, this is just OnePlus, like they're kind of setting the standard for the year,
Right.
right?
Right.
It wasn't necessarily the case. I guess it was OnePlus kind of being a little bit more experimental, right? This is very much, and we'll kind of see this theme throughout the S25 Ultra, where it's Samsung knowing that they have such a strong presence here in the States,
Yeah.
right? As far as Android phones go, everyone knows what a Samsung phone is,
Right.
right? Whether you're into it or not, you can walk into any carrier store and they have a plethora of Samsung devices for you to buy if you want an Android, right? Samsung knows this, and this is just an example of them. I kind of want to say pulling an Apple, and they're just being really safe.
Yeah.
They're just being really safe with it, right? The display is fantastic, but it's a safe bet from Samsung as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, of course, one thing that Samsung did really good when it comes to this phone is include the latest and greatest of the chipsets on smartphones, which is the Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy.
Yeah.
Which is just a fancy name to say that it's overclocked because it's going to give you a little bit more power. But you know what's funny is the fact that there's nothing that you can throw at a phone, not even just this phone, any phone. The chips are so powerful that you can play any game, you can go any social media app, you can watch any kind of video, and you're going to be completely fine. And this phone is no different because you're going to be able to see everything and anything with no hiccups, with phone not getting warm, and you're gonna be perfectly fine. And it's crazy because I feel like, and we've talked about this, we got to the point that for you to be able to completely take advantage of a chipset so powerful, which could be in a computer, is for you to create apps or programs or tasks that are so complicated that use more power, because everything right now is so basic and straightforward that it just works.
Yeah, the day-to-day tasks for 99.9% of the people who are going to get this phone are not going to trip it up in the slightest. There was nothing that I was doing on the phone, even if I'm multitasking a couple of different apps at the same time, right? Like you could have GPS navigation going while also watching a YouTube video, doing it all on LTE, not even on Wi-Fi while you're driving, and it's not going to get warm, right? But one good thing about the S25 Ultra is that it comes with Samsung's fresh coat of paint for One UI, which is One UI 7, right?
Super clean.
Based on Android 15. It looks really nice. I actually really like it. There are definitely some like visual design tweaks and stuff like that. Of course, your Galaxy AI features are here as well.
Yeah.
Like they're definitely expanding on them. We've talked about them in other reviews as well. But for me, I actually really liked One UI 7 because of like some of the day-to-day changes, right? The things you're going to experience as you're using the phone much more often. So just some like subtle tweaks I noticed. The app drawer now is vertical. Like it goes up and down as opposed to horizontal. That's actually, it's a small thing, but I actually really like that.
Right.
And then you'll see certain like UI features that draw inspiration from competitors.
Inspiration is a good word.
Yeah. We've seen that before. But there are cool things for quality of life. One other thing I also really liked, if you have certain relevant notifications like sports scores, or like Samsung has this new like daily briefing thing, they'll actually show up at the bottom of the screen at your lock screen, where they're actually like much easier to access with your fingers, right? And you can shuffle through those notifications almost like a deck of cards, like they stack on the back of each other as you shuffle.
Animation's kind of cool.
And you can actually press and interact with them, and they expand right on your lock screen and stuff like that too. So some of those quality of life things are pretty cool. And given that it is the Ultra, it does have the S Pen.
We're going to hit him with this one.
One of the few phones left on the planet with an integrated stylus.
Yep.
Right? Now, here's the thing. I like the S Pen, right?
It's great.
Great input, super accurate, awesome for someone who loves to take notes on their phone. They even have AI features. You can sketch an image and bring it to life.
Yeah.
You can annotate notes with the S Pen and stuff like that using
Mm-hmm.
AI, right? You can open up the camera app and you can use the pen to take a picture.
You can.
No, you can't.
You
Actually,
cannot.
that used to be a thing. That that used to be a thing with the S24 Ultra, and the Bluetooth functionality has now been removed out of the S Pen.
Which is crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Which I actually now I'm not gonna even pretend to say that I use that feature a lot, but it was convenient to be able to set the phone somewhere on like a table, maybe take a few steps back with the S Pen,
Right.
or set the phone on a tripod,
Mm-hmm.
walk away and capture images with the S Pen,
And it
right?
worked.
And it worked really well whenever you needed it for those purposes. And that is no longer here.
Yep.
And my thing is, if you're going to remove a feature, at the very least, bring something else in.
Yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
the phone got cheaper technically for you to produce as far as the S Pen goes.
Right.
Because there's now no Bluetooth. It didn't reflect in the price of the phone for the consumer.
Yeah.
And there's no additional features here,
Yep.
which I don't know.
Samsung, tell us what happened.
Yeah, I really have no idea. I really have no idea. But performance and software, they're still really, really good. Just be wary of the S Pen.
If you're
I've
a big
actually
fan.
I've seen people on social media saying they're going to skip the upgrade for this year because they actually like having the Bluetooth functionality.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much validity there is to that, but for some people, it's the principle of having something taken away.
Exactly. On
That-
something that's supposed to be the top of the line of their lineup.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So just be aware.
Now, the best part of the video, my favorite part of the video, is the cameras because there's so many things that I enjoy about new cameras. There's so many things that I like to play around with when it comes to new cameras. But in this case with the S25 Ultra, there's not a lot of neat things with the cameras because if you look at the specs on paper compared to the S24, they look almost the same. It looks like it's the same camera system except for one lens. But you still have the 200 megapixel wide camera.
Mhm.
You have the 50 megapixel periscope telephoto 5x camera.
Yep.
You have the 10 megapixel telephoto 3x camera.
Yep.
But now you have a 50 megapixel ultra wide camera versus 12 from last year. So if you like to take a lot of ultra wide pictures, now you have a better camera. My point being is because there's not a lot of upgrades nowadays, not even just with this phone. So I'm not trying to just hate on this phone. We don't see upgrades on cameras anywhere. Like
Have you heard of
look
the
at
Fusion camera?
don't even get me started. But what I'm trying to get at is that's great. There's no reason for you to upgrade the camera that much because software is getting so much better at using that hardware that your phone comes with to enhance those pictures that you get amazing results, whether you have the hardware from this year or the one from last year.
Yep.
It is a little disappointing if I'm being honest with you because like I said earlier, I love to play with new features. I like to play with new effects and things that are there, not things that are digitally there, but physically there. So personally, I would have liked something better, something more, but I'm not one to just sit and point and shoot. I like to mess with the camera system. I like to mess with the camera app. I know you are the one to take the phone, take a picture, and then upload it. Just
Yeah,
because
which-
it's straightforward.
Which there is pro mode and stuff like that, right? Like just like any other flagship
Right.
phone. Yeah, like you
And
do
it's
have
the software.
yeah. But for point and shoot, I'm either gonna pick like if you're gonna tell me to point and shoot on an Android phone, I'm either picking up the Ultra or I'm picking up the Pixel 9 Pro.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
So and that's the thing is when you think about the vast majority of people who are going to buy a phone like this, probably even this as well, but obviously with the S25 and the S25 Plus especially,
right.
they're point and shoot. They're going to be like me from that perspective, right? I do not like, especially if I'm trying to capture a quick shot of like my dog before he looks away or something. I don't
Right.
want to look into, the zoom and the ISO and the white balance and the brightness and like all this other stuff, right? Like to get everything right. I just like to point and shoot. And
Right.
this is still, without the major upgrades to the camera system, this is a top tier flagship camera system.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially from a point and shoot perspective. And the ultra wide getting an upgrade was great.
I mean, yeah, that's one thing that are gonna upgrade.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you know what didn't get an upgrade?
Oh no.
The battery.
Yep.
The battery did not get an upgrade. Not necessarily a bad thing. Okay, it's still coming with a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, which is a big battery, right?
That's
This-
awesome.
Yeah, this is a phone that you
It's like
could,
above average.
yeah.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
This is a phone where you could get through like a full day. Heavy usage, just fine.
Right.
Right. Comes with 45-watt wired charging and
In
stuff
the
like that.
box.
No,
Oh.
no charger in the box.
Gotcha.
No charger
Yep.
in the box, just capable of 45-watt wired charging.
Of course.
Charger sold separately. The cable's in there, but not the brick. So
Okay.
brick sold separately. But I was again hoping for it being the Ultra phone
Right.
to have the silicon carbon battery
Right.
that we saw in the 13, right? Because I feel like with a phone this size, they definitely could have squeezed in a 6,000 milliamp hour, and that would have made this a battery champ, just like the 13 is.
Yep.
Again, still really good, but really safe from
Yeah.
Samsung
Yeah, I agree.
as far as the battery goes. Yeah. But all in all, the S25 Ultra is still a flagship. It is an ultra flagship caliber phone.
It is. It does
Right.
live up to the name. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah, it definitely does. I feel like I understand why companies like Samsung and Apple take the safe bets with their smartphones, right? They're so big and they have such a presence, and a lot of folks who are going to gravitate to their products because at the end of the day, they are still fantastic products,
Right.
right? So they don't necessarily need to take risks. I just wish they would, especially on certain aspects of their product line that is at least differentiated.
Right.
I would totally understand if your safe bet products were the S25 and the S25 Plus.
Right.
Right? You have the average size phone that a lot of people like, and you have the plus size phone that a lot of people like. You're still going to get flagship cameras, flagship display, flagship performance, right?
Everything.
Now, this phone for the 256 gig variant starts at $1,299, right? Before trade-in, okay? At that price point, when you look at a phone like this, the OnePlus 13, that is $300 to $400 cheaper, and really the biggest trade-off you'd be making, because software is like what's the word I'm looking
Equivalent?
for? No, not necessarily equivalent. Software is going to be personal preference.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
The software you like is personal preference, right? So we're not going to count software. But the biggest sacrifice you'd be making to save $300 to $400 and get yourself a 13 is going to be the camera system,
Agreed.
right? Is this phone worth $300 to $400 extra for the camera system?
Absolutely
And
not.
right.
Yeah.
So I would love to see Samsung take more risks with the Ultra moniker phone. It is quite literally called Ultra for a reason. Throw in the best display compared to the 25 and the 25 Plus, right? Not just a display that is a little bit better,
Right.
right?
Right.
Throw in the latest battery technology.
Right.
You know what I mean? Do those types of things. Of course, it has the 8 Elite,
Right.
The Snapdragon 8 Elite, which is great. But at this price point, Samsung is already so well established that they could take more risks.
Oh, 100%.
And again, I don't blame them because I know the 24 Ultra was super successful last year. It was a massively popular phone. So essentially,
Massive.
yeah,
You know what else is massive?
the price tag.
Carry on.
Yeah. So they essentially went with the formula of if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right. Right.
Right.
No,
But at the same
100%
time, you have room to take risks here, in my opinion, anyways. I still absolutely love the phone, but in terms of which Android phone is actually going to continue to have my SIM card in it, I'm going with the OnePlus 13.
Yeah, and I think this is what's disappointing because it's such a good phone. But you're right. The Ultra doesn't feel like on a different league. It just feels like it's a slightly improved S24 Plus.
25 Plus. But yeah.
25 Plus.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah. But I always give Samsung credit for this on every review we do. The
Right.
trade-in prices are nuts. $900 for an S24 Ultra, and they currently have a promo going. The phone is officially available, so it's not even on pre-order anymore.
Right.
They currently have a promo going where you can get 512 for the same price as 256, 1,300. So you could, theoretically speaking, get a 512 gigabyte S24 Ultra for 425 Ultra for $400 after trade-in if you have last year's Ultra flagship.
Yep.
That is actually still pretty insane.
It's a good deal.
Yeah. But just know it's kind of like going from a pair of Jordans into a pair of Jordans.
That's a good way to put it.
It's like the same thing.
Same, but different.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like the same thing. But this is not the only Samsung phone that we have to review.
We have a lot more coming.
We do.
There's a lot more stuff also being announced ASAP by other companies. So please stay tuned because we're going to talk about
One named
everything.
after a fruit.
Yep.
Maybe.
That one that keeps the doctor away.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that just about
Stay
does
tuned.
it. We really hope you enjoyed it. If you're new, consider subscribing, and we'll see you again very soon.
Till the next one.
Peace.
If you compare the S24 Ultra versus the S25 Ultra, they look practically identical. You have the same 200 megapixel ultra wide camera.
Ultra wide camera.